Hi, welcome back to my office. Today I want to talk about how movies can change the world. In order to do so, I'm going to be talking a little bit about film theory. Film theory exists at the crossroads of two things that can be very gatekeepy: film and academia. But it doesn't have to be that way. Everyone's smart enough to understand film theory. It's just that it's usually written in what is basically a different language. So I'm going to put it in plain terms today. Oftentimes, people think of film and other kinds of entertainment as escapism, but movies can actually affect the world around us in real and surprising ways. We spend about a third of our lifetime engaging with media in different forms, so how could it not affect the ways we think and behave? Historically, there have been two big ways of thinking about mass media's role in culture. The first way of thinking about film says that the fact that films can influence the way we think and behave is dangerous and scary. That position is associated with a group of thinkers called the Frankfurt School. They're called the Frankfurt School because they taught and attended a university together in Frankfurt, Germany. By and large, they were worried that the mass media led to groupthink and mob mentalities. They had good reason to think this. They were in Frankfurt, Germany in the 1930s, and they were vehemently against the rise of fascism.
A nationwide book burning program to eliminate foreign influence.
They were looking around at their fellow citizens and they were trying to figure out why they all seemed so brainwashed. Because of the horrors of the war and the Holocaust, the idea that people could be easily brainwashed generally dominated the way we thought about things like television and popular culture for a long time, and that position is still kind of influential. But in the 1960s, a theorist named Stuart Hall introduced the idea of encoding and decoding, which also really influences the way we think about media today. Encoding and decoding gives us a framework to think about how we don't all take the same thing from films. Movies may have a message that they're trying to promote. That's the encoding that Hall is referring to. But that doesn't mean that we passively and unthinkingly understand and accept that message, right? We're not zombies. Instead, we filter the film's message through our own beliefs and experiences, and that is called decoding. You can think about Wicked here, and the fact that people have been online fighting about whether the wizard is more like Trump or Kamala Harris, leading to articles like this one from Upworthy, which calls the discussion around the politics of Wicked a political Rorschach test, because people are filtering the meaning of the film through their own political and personal lenses. So films don't brainwash us, but they can be influential enough to be a matter of life and death. And they can alter the world around us in really serious ways. One of the most famous examples of this is the ocean-altering consequences of the film Jaws. Jaws was released in 1975. In addition to making people terrified to go into the ocean or go to the beach, it created a massive fad for shark hunting. The movie portrayed shark hunting as masculine and glamorous, and in the course of only a few years after the film's release, the population of sharks off the eastern coast of the United States decreased by 50%. That's over half of the population of sharks off the East Coast that were just wiped out and still haven't recovered. Spielberg has actually expressed guilt about this several times in the last couple of years. Happily, this can also go the other way. After Bambi was released, for example, deer hunting declined because nobody wanted to see themselves as the person who killed Bambi's mom, right? I'm going to hold us through one more hard example, and then I'm going to turn towards some hopeful ways that film has changed culture. But I can't make a little explainer about how film has changed the world without talking about Birth of a Nation, unfortunately. This is D.W. Griffith's 1915 monstrosity, and it's the worst. It's 3 hours long. It is virulently racist. The quote-unquote good guys in the logic of the film are the members of the Ku Klux Klan who ride in on white horses to reinstall white supremacy at the end. I mean, it's truly horrifying. When the film was first released, the KKK was actually pretty much dead, its membership having seriously dwindled since the end of the Civil War. This film single-handedly revived the Ku Klux Klan, which got an influx of millions of members. Again, though, people aren't zombies, so there was extreme pushback against a lot of the screenings of Birth of a Nation. And in fact, some cities even banned screenings of Birth of a Nation. Okay, Let's talk about some positive examples of how film has changed the world. The film critic Roger Ebert once called film an empathy machine because of its power to humanize members of marginalized populations. For example, the 1961 British film Victim focused on the lives of homosexual men, and it's largely credited with the passing of legislation a few years later that decriminalized homosexuality in Britain. In the United States, the 1991 documentary Paris is Burning focused on participants in Harlem Dry Balls and sought to humanize trans and queer people, especially trans and queer people of color, in the midst of the AIDS epidemic. Paris is Burning also changed our language. Shade, realness, voguing, reading someone for filth, all of those were terms popularized by Paris is Burning. Fictional narratives and made-up characters can also become rallying points for real-world political issues, right? We can think about how we've seen the idea of Dumbledore's army from the Harry Potter series mobilized for protests. And we can think about how Indigenous protesters and Palestinian protesters have both used imagery from the Avatar films to help get their messages across. These are big societal level shifts. But the other important thing is that film can change you. We're in a moment of history where we might feel like we're sort of helpless in the face of national level politics. And it is absolutely essential to fill your tank in this current moment. Shared cultural products can make you feel seen. They can give you insights into the ways people have weathered hard times in the past, and they can show us glimmers of what a better world could look like. They can also make you laugh and give you relief from your normal cares for a period of time, and that's also great. From here on out, I'm going to be mostly focused on a single film each week. Next week, I'm going to talk about Wicked, which is in the theaters but is also available to rent or buy now. I'm going to be running Wicked through my film decoder ring, which means I'll be asking, what's good in this movie? What's bad? What's the problem? And what's the solution? And those questions will help us hit upon the larger meanings in the film. As your professor friend, I'm assigning you homework, but only if you want it. I want to know what your answers are to the decoder ring questions for Wicked, so let me know in the comments. I also want to know, what is a film that changed your life or your mind?